Hello everyone, and welcome to our second screencast on creating and engraving the custom clear acrylic top. So that's this part, of course, of our sign project, the part that lights up. It is made of a clear plastic called acrylic. Not all plastics can be lasered, so you do have to be careful that you know what you're putting into a laser cutter when you're putting plastic in there. But acrylic is fine, and it cuts well, and it engraves well. So just to show you what we're talking about in the CAD model, it's this top portion here. I chose our robotics team logo to engrave, but you can do this with any vector logo. The process is going to start with, we actually have to, just like we created this bottom base, we're going to create this top piece first by creating some plastic stock and then using a cut file that we have, just like we did for the base, to cut that out. And then we'll go ahead and find a logo. I'm going to do a new one, and I'll show you how to engrave that. So here we go. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is start a new file, new design, and go ahead and start a sketch right away. And it's always a good idea to just double check and make sure you're set for inches. Okay, so I'm going to create a piece of stock. This piece is smaller than, I think it's 2 inches by 3 inches, but I'm just going to make a 5 inch by 5 inch square. So I'll type 5, tab 5. And there's my 5 inch square. Done with that sketch. The plastic we're going to use is also 1/8 of an inch, just like the wood. So you can extrude it 0.125 inches. That's 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and like before, we want to focus on having the right materials. So I'm going to go ahead up here to the top of my file tree. The cube represents this object as a component. Might as well go ahead and save it right now. We'll call it, I'm going to call it acrylic top. Okay. And I'm going to right click on that to bring up the submenu, go to appearance. And then I'm going to go to my plastic folder. I'm looking for some type of clear, transparent acrylic, first one. And we can drag that onto our object or to the component up here at the top. And now it's clear. Okay, now we're going to do that, what I call the cookie cutter technique, and we're going to use a vector cut file that I have for this project and use it to cut out this shape. So I'll go ahead and close this. I'm going to start a new sketch on the surface of this plexiglass we just made. And I'm going to come up here to Insert, SVG, and I'm going to navigate to, this is the base. I'm going to go find the file for the top part here. Okay, here's the file for the top. Okay, and there we can see it. It's not on my stock, so I'm going to grab that square and move it somewhere toward the center. And like before, the scale's off by, it should be the same factor, a factor of 5. So we can, in this box right here, we can scale that up to 5. Okay. Press OK. Finish sketch. Okay, so now we're going to extrude. And remember, we're going to use the extrude to cut. So we're going to change the operation to cut, and we're going to choose the shape that we want to cut away. So we want to keep the inside, so we'll choose the outside. And I'm just going to grab this arrow, push it down, and then change the extent to all, so it cuts through everything. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, so the process for creating engraving the logo is actually pretty similar, but instead of cutting the whole way through, we just cut partially through the material. But the next step is going to be, I'm going to give you a quick reminder on how to find a photo or something off the internet, and if it's not a vector, turn it into a vector, because to do this engraving, we're going to have to use this insert SVG, which is a vector. So I'm going to switch over to Inkscape, and I have a Raider logo here ready. Okay. And this is it's currently a raster. It's a pixel file. If I zoom in, right, you can see how blurry and blocky it gets. That's how you know it's a raster file. Okay. To convert this to a vector, a lot of you have used this tool quite a bit. We come up here to Path, and this is Trace Bitmap. Okay, this menu pops open, and it may be over here. And what this is these are different algorithms in this pull-down menu, different methods that the computer uses to try to scan these pixels and turn it into a vector type picture, which is made of actually a lot of nodes and equations that create different lines. So I usually start with the first one. This brightness threshold, you definitely sometimes need to play with that. There's a little preview here. Make sure you have this object selected, and you can press update, and you'll get a little preview here that kind of helps you guide you with this number. If I make it too high and hit update, right? Well, actually, that doesn't look too bad, but sometimes it gets really, well, there it's washed out altogether. Okay. You can go too far the other way, it gets too light. But I'm just going to go right here in the middle, press OK. And you might not think anything happened, but I actually have right on top of my old picture, I drag it over, I have now a vector copy. And this one came out pretty good. Okay, you can see no matter how far I zoom it in, it doesn't really get pixelated. And if we come up here, this tool here is for editing vector files. You can see that all the nodes sort of lit up for me to choose to be edited. But if you don't have these nodes are a telltale sign that it's a vector. Okay, if I come back here and click on this other picture, that's not going to happen because it's not a vector. Okay, so I'm going to save this file as an SVG file and then import it into Fusion and see if we can engrave it. So press OK. Oops, I made an extra copy. I am going to delete everything I don't need. That was an extra copy. That's the original. And this is my vector. So I'm going to do File, Save As. I'll call it Tommy Raider. Okay, and I'm going to go back to Fusion. Come up here to Insert SVG, and I'm going to go find that SVG and import it. Okay, here's that file. It's asking me to select a plane. I want to place it. I want to place it on the top of this piece. Okay, it's on the right plane, but not in the right spot. So I'm going to move it to the center. And now we can just scale it for just visually how we want it. I think I'd like that to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to try 1.5. Maybe I can get away with 2. No, too big. Go back. Maybe I'll try 1.7. Oops, 21.7. 1.7. It's still too big. I'll stick with 1.5. Oop. I think what it did is it scaled at 1.5 from what it was. So let me try that again real quick. I'm just going to do undo, insert SVG. Let's scale that to 1.5 again. Put it where I want it. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a cut file, but we're not going to cut the whole way through. We're just going to engrave. And this is going to take a little, This is going to take a little bit of trial and error to see which shapes we want to press in. The ones that we press in are going to look sort of opaque. They're going to look a little darker. They're pieces. They're the ones that will light up, and then the ones that aren't pressed in will be clear. So I'm going to choose extrude, and I'm going to choose some of these inner shapes like that. Remember, this is 0.125 inches thick, so 0.1 might be a good depth because that's not going to go the whole way through. You can look at it on the side there. Hit OK. Yeah, and there we can see that's not a bad start, right? There's probably some features in the face I want. The sketch, now that I've used the sketch, it's been consumed by this extrusion. You don't see it, but we can come back up here to the sketches menu and find which one it was. I think this third one, and press the eyeball and turn it back on. And that's because I want to do the same. I want to extrude this little nose mouth part, maybe even that chin part. So I'm going to choose extrude again. Okay, you can extrude any closed shape. Maybe that. And one more time, 0.1. Hit OK. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I can turn that sketch back off. Okay, that's the end of this screencast. This is your acrylic clear top with your customized vector logo engraved in it. See you on the next one.